Hello, Simon Gawser from RIO Products here, talking to you today about one of my all-time favorite ways of fly fishing. An addiction, if you like to call it, the two-handed trout spey rod. First of all, what is it? Very quickly, a two-handed rod. Got a cork handle below and a long handle above, two hands. A trout spey rod, the line size this takes is somewhere between a 2-weight, a 3-weight, a 4-weight or a 5-weight. And generally it's shorter than 12 foot in length. This one happens to be 11 foot 9 inches in length. I fish 10 foot 6, 11 foot, but they're shorter than 12 foot. They're two-handed and they're 2, 3, 4, 5 weight. That's a trout spey. A lot of people are into trout spey, a lot of people are using trout spey, a lot of buzz about trout spey. And so what I'd like to do is tell you a bit about some fly lines that load these up absolutely perfectly and make these an incredible joy to cast. First line to talk about is called the InTouch Skagit Trout Spey. Skagit is a term for an aggressive fly line. And the reason you fish an aggressive fly line is real simple. You're going to throw big flies. Flies like this have a lot of weight to them. Gentle tapers, presentation fly lines aren't going to move these. And so a Skagit Trout Spey type line is perfect for throwing your big streamers. On the front end of this, you must have a sink tip or a floating tip or an intermediate tip, whatever density you like. So you must have some kind of tip on the end of the Skagit line, and that will help you get it down and it'll help it turn over. You can fish what's called mow tips like this, or T8 tips, or various sinking tips or floating tips, as I said, but you've got to have some kind of tip on the end of your Skagit Trout Spey line. If you're not fishing the big flies, and I like the big flies, I like stripping big flies and I like moving and swinging big flies, but I love more than anything swinging 2 or 3 little soft hackles and an intermediate tip in the surface film. Deadly, deadly way of fly fishing for trout. And for that, those Skagit lines are just going to land too heavy, they're too aggressive. So what we have is what's called the InTouch Trout Spey. The much longer tapers, much softer presentation. So you can just tie a leader straight onto this and 2 or 3 soft tackles and fish away. Or if you really want to, then you can get on a little intermediate VersiLeader like this. That's what I love on this thing, because I get down just below the surface and swing 6 to 8 inches down in a deadly, deadly fish catching zone. And these, on top of these, are fabulous ways of fishing. These lines I've showed you in the boxes come on what's called an integrated version, and that means the running line goes straight to the head and is all one piece. And a lot of trout anglers like a single piece fly line because they don't want to deal with what the spey people deal with, which are loop-to-loop connections going up and down the rods. But for reasons I'll talk about shortly, if you do like that system, you can get the same line, a Skagit and a Scandi, in a shooting head. And the advantage with a shooting head system is you have one reel with a shooting line on, and you just change the heads according to whether you're fishing a big fly or a small fly. That's a cool way of fishing that. You just change out these lines according to what you fish. If you've got the integrated line on and you want to go through big flies, you've got to change your reel, put another reel on. So that's just an observation, if you like. Perhaps the easiest thing of all to get is the InTouch Skagit Trout Spey VersiTip. And that is everything in a single box. So you don't have to worry about going out and buying the right size running line and the right size tips and the right size this and that. Everything's in a box. In this box, you will find a running line, which goes to your backing. And then on the front of that, there's a big loop. And in the wallet, you'll see there's a bright green tip or head, and this is the Skagit head. And inside the wallet are 3 tips. There's a full floating tip. There's what's called a half and half, which means the tip is 5 foot floating and 5 foot sinking. And there's a full 10 foot sinking tip. So this package has everything. If you don't know where to start, just go and get that. We're trying to make this really simple because it's a very complicated subject. And so one of the simplest things to do is to look at the number. Right? This is a number 3. And what I've got here is a 3-weight trout spey. Guess what? That's what it is, a match. You get a 3-weight one of these if you've got a 3-weight one of these, and it's as easy as that. Don't worry about the grains and the grams and the things that the spey people deal with, which gets complicated. Just match the line size to the rod size, and that's a perfect combination. So it sounds really complicated, but let's just kind of run through a quick summary of what that is. A Skagit Trout Spey is designed for big flies and sink tips. A regular trout spey is designed for pretty well everything else. Match the line size to the rod size. That's a perfect match. And we've made all these heads short enough that you can fish them on your regular one-handed rod. But Most important rule of all, the rule of 3. The Spey world differs from the two-handed world by 3 numbers. And that means if I've got a 3-weight one of these, I put it on a 6-weight one of these. It's a perfect combination. If I've got a 4-weight one of these, I'm going to put it on a 7-weight. So step up 3, otherwise you'll completely overload it. So these heads are designed for, as I said, one-handed rods or two-handed trout spays. If you've never given it a go out, give these a shot. They are the absolute most fun. They're the wonderful way of fishing. They're very, very easy to cast. They're a great way of swinging through a riffle and just catch a pile of fish. And apart from that, it's an awful lot of fun. So look out for those, the RIO InTouch Skagit Trout Spey and the RIO InTouch Spey line.
RIO. Make the connection.